your phones on silent if you would. That way it's not disrespectful to our speaker and it doesn't drive the man on the camera crazy. If you've not been here before, the protocol is pretty easy. We have a speaker that talks about who they are, why they're here, why they're in business, their biggest aha moment, what they've learned, and what they kind of want to do going forward. They have a presentation, and then we have a Q&A. If you would, whenever you have the question and answer segment, raise your hand, wait till she says something to you or points you out so that where we can all be respectful of each other. And now, I have the pleasure of introducing Leslie. Leslie has a company that does environmental services restorations. I thought she did something completely different than that. So it's neat for me because I get to see all the extra depth of what she's doing. So if you have fire damages, if you have mold damage, things of that nature, it's what her and her husband started a company doing a couple of years ago. And so I'm going to leave it all to her. Please welcome Leslie Curneal. You have to go out, by the way.
Where do you want me to say?
You can go wherever you want.
I wish in the middle. Oh, in the middle. Okay, and I have to have this to hold on to. I'm Leslie Curneal. My husband Scott cannot be here this morning, and he sends his apologies. He got a call yesterday afternoon, and he had to be on site early this morning to give a bid, and so we all know how that goes. Work comes first. So I will do the best that I can to tell you our story, and I'll answer as many questions as I can, but that was going to be his part. We currently own one business. It's Enviro Source Restoration. It's a complete remodeling and decontamination service. But the story starts here. For 15 years, Scott worked in the coal mines, and he really had a passion within him to own his own business. He had a desire to own his own business. But I had been raised in a family that had their own business, and I knew the struggles. And it was not easy. It consumed your entire day, your entire night, your entire life. And sometimes it was great, and sometimes it was not so great. So for a long time, I probably discouraged him from doing so, but I saw that he was becoming more and more dissatisfied with his job in the mines, and he really wanted to get out on his own. So in 2009, I said, okay, I'm behind you, let's do it. We did some research, or he did the research really, and we saw that there was really not anybody in town that was doing air duct cleaning, a few people doing carpet cleaning, and there was no one really doing chimney sweeping. And that's what a big part of what my family had done. They had a cleaning service. They did chimney sweeping, carpet cleaning, that sort of thing. So we knew that we could rely on my stepdad and my mom for a lot of advice. And in 2009, we started Environmental Solutions, okay? So that we've had some name changes over the years. We bought some equipment, bought the, I don't have a picture of the air duct cleaning machine, but the carpet cleaner, the air duct machine, the chimney sweeping equipment. All of our startup cash came from the First Bank of Mom and Pop. And, we have great in-laws that were able to support us, and they saw that this was something their son and daughter-in-law wanted to do, and they supported us, and so they helped us out to buy the equipment. Scott went to Texas for a week, and he was trained and certified on using the equipment, and he came back. Well, at this time, he was still working in the mines because we were not ready to do this full-time yet. We needed to get the word out, and but he quickly worked out around what he was doing, and he had a lot of business very quickly, and he took the plunge and did this full-time. In late 2009, we got a call from a local business that said, would you give us a bid to do some janitorial services on a regular basis? And we said, sure. Again, we relied on my family to help us with advice, and we were very fortunate. We got the bid, and so we started doing commercial janitorial services. It led to us, over a period of time, we had as many as 10 contracts that we were managing. So we were cleaning local offices here in Hopkins County. And by, 2011, we saw some things happening, and Scott had an opportunity to continue the was take environmental solutions and turn it into something different. We did a name change. We wanted to put our name on the cleaning service. So we had Curneal's cleaning service, and then we had Enviro source restoration. So we were struggling with identity. That was a problem we were having. We were trying to figure out how to identify ourselves, and that was one of the challenges. But at that time, we were managing 2 businesses. Now, by October 2014, we had Curneal's cleaning service offering janitorial services here in Hopkins County. This provided us a very steady income. Both of us were working. I was working my job at the city. He was managing and working with Enviro source restoration and trying to build that up. And then we were cleaning at night, and it was becoming challenging.
Wow.
And honestly, we had people working with us, but we saw a decline in the service that we were providing, and we didn't want to leave a bad name for ourselves. I mean, really, and so we were trying to decide, we've really been struggling with the decision for about 6 months of whether to just shut down the cleaning service and continue Enviro source, and so by October, we had made that decision. We said, okay, we're gonna go full-fledged with Enviro source restoration and stop the cleaning service. So, as of today, we now only have Enviro source restoration. And it's a complete remodeling and decontamination service. Scott is fully certified with the National Environmental Trainers, incorporated in IICRC. And I said, can you tell me a little bit more about that, Scott? What does that mean? He said, well, I'm certified to do the things that I do in all of the states that I work in. And I'll go back on the slide before. You can see he has crews travelers in Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, and Alabama. So he's all over the place. He's regional. Okay. They do roofing, drywall, painting, vinyl siding, replacement windows, decks, laminate, and hardwood flooring. And then on the decontamination services part, it's mold remediation, lead decontamination, biohazard decontamination, trauma sink cleanup, and air duct cleaning. Now, it sounds like a lot, but, you know, when the jobs come, he has to, you know, it depends on what the need is, so. He is certified to do all of it. Our customers, finance companies, biohazard decontamination out of Louisville, property management companies, other restoration and reconstruction company contractors, insurance adjusters, realtors, and property owners. Those are our customers. So the last slides are just some pictures of the work that he does. Now, my job, he has to document everything that he does, and my job is to take all of the photos. We get them to whoever the customer is, because they have to have all kinds of documentation before and after. So this is probably the worst mold job he's ever done, and it is terrible. This was in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. There's a before and after. This is the hallway, so you can see the work that they did. There's the kitchen, lots of mold above the cabinets, and the kitchen after. This was the basement. The problem was in the basement. If you know anything about mold, you got to get rid of the problem before you can get rid of the mold. And so they had a lot of water in the basement, and they fixed the problem. This was the stairwell going down into the basement. Again, and the hallway. That's them replacing the sump pump in the basement. Biohazard decontamination. Many of you that know us know that Scott cleans meth houses. He does not clean meth labs. The meth lab is already gone. It's a property that has been, someone's been arrested for manufacturing or harboring meth in their home, and the state has already, or the health department has already secured the property. Placards have been put on the door that this home is unfit for human habitation, and it's on, you know, off limits. They go in, they test, they turn in the test to the laboratories depending on the level of contamination. They submit a bid. If they get the bid, then they go in and they clean the house. Then a hygienist has to go behind them and test the house again to make sure everything passes and that someone can now move back into the house. So this is just a standard placard that is on the door. Here's another one. This is the house. Looks like a house any of us. And this is a case with many of the homes that he does, and we have lots of cases, so, okay, any house. Here's another placard, another placard. Many times he's working with the police agencies, many times he's working with the health departments, sometimes it's the mortgage company, just depends on, sometimes it's just the homeowner or the property owner, maybe it's a tenant that has been arrested, and it's up to the homeowner to get it resolved before they can open the house back up. There's another one. There's one of the guys suited up in their outfit. Remodeling. This was a house in Owensboro that had caught fire. And this was the inside. They had gotten it ready to put everything back, so that's everything down to the studs. This is a remodel job in Oak Grove that they did. They did a lot of work to this house, but I showed this picture to show the dilapidated deck, and then they added a new deck to the back. This is a roof that had leaked, damaged the ceiling. They've taken out the ceiling, put the sheetrock back, and gotten it ready. So that's it in a nutshell. That's what he does, that's what we do, and I will open it up for questions. Yes, Susan.
Let me start. All right, question.
How many do you have?
Two.
Okay. I always have two.
Yes.
The first one I have is, since he's going on these other areas, what made you make the decision to branch out like that? Because there's a lot of travel time involved, a lot of time away involved, to pay completions for expenses. When you thought about licensing those areas to some other crew?
Well, he has 3 crews that he sends out. So it's not just him, he has 3 crews. And yes, they go in different directions. So.
How many total employees?
Well, it varies. Depends on how many jobs he has going on at the time. Sometimes they're employees that are just temporary for the job, and that's one mark I don't even know because it fluctuates so much. But yeah, there's probably, the crews are like 3-man jobs, 3-man crews, so about 6 or 8 that it goes up and down. Yes.
Since you're using temporary guys to do a lot of your work, are you hiring them through a temporary service? Or
no, some of them are contract laborers.
Who gets to do all the bookkeeping?
Well, he does the majority of it, and then we work with a CPA firm here in town.
So the contract labor, do they have to be certified also?
Well, they work under his certification. So he is doing all of the testing. He has the certification to do the testing, and there's another gentleman that works with him that is also certified. And so the other guys are just doing basically the deconstruction or put back of drywall and painting and that sort of thing. So, yes.
You said about that you grew up in a family that had a small business. Has it, and you were then skeptical about being part of another family that had a small business, which I totally understand. Has it confirmed what you thought, or has it been different? How's it been different? How's it been exactly what you expected?
Well, the things that I learned was that we knew from the beginning, we made a decision together that we would not buy or rent an office space.
Oh,
we were going to work from home until we could afford to branch out. We're at the place where he's going to have to rent a space because he has a lot of trailers, more work vehicles and that sort of thing. So we're at that place now where he is going to have to branch out, get a place, rent a place or buy a place. I'm not sure we're ready to buy, but rent a place for his office and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think that was maybe a mistake my parents had made, is that they had purchased too much of an office space, too much of a workspace. It put a hardship on them when things were not so good. And so that was one of the lessons we learned. But I have to tell you, for the first probably 3 years, Scott really struggled. I mean, he got another job that provided a steady income because he was uncertain. He's like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't, you know, he didn't feel like he was able to provide. He was very nervous about it. And when Enviro Source took off, he said, this is it. And really, I look at it and say, there's no going back now. I mean, you never know what tomorrow holds, but we don't look back now.
Can I speak to how many companies, if there are out there, that do the trauma cleanup and the meth cleanup, and why that is the direction that you took?
Yeah, there are quite a few companies that do the meth cleanup. We get, we see notifications from police departments and that sort of thing that go out to the vendors, and so you'd be surprised at how many people actually do it. But I don't know that there's anyone around here that does it locally. The trauma cleanup, he doesn't, he does it, he's certified. Honestly, he's a little hesitant sometimes to take those jobs because, I mean, you're dealing with very delicate situations, and he's just, he does it sometimes if that's what the vendor or the customer wants, but those are not fun jobs. There are larger companies. I was telling Jamie, when Scott made most of his contacts through the training when he was going to get his certifications, and he saw that a lot of these reconstruction companies were huge. So if there was a fire or a water damage job, I mean, these companies were huge outfits, and we realized we could never be that. You either had to be small or you had to be gigantic, and there was really no in-between. The in-between guy kind of suffers, and that was a lesson he learned. So we want to keep it rather small.
How big of a challenge has it been, Leslie, finding the right team members, contract laborers? Scott can't be, if he's got 2 or 3 jobs going at the same time, he can't always be
Right.
at each side, especially if one is in Indiana and one in Tennessee.
Well, he was very fortunate to have a friend that also worked in the coal mines that wanted to get out again, you know, to do something different. He had some contracting skills that were very valuable to Scott. And so he has been a great partner for him to work with. You know, getting the laborers that need a constant job that maybe is not there, that's been a challenge for sure. Yeah, it has been a challenge. But the good Lord has looked out for us, and so far so good.
What would you say is your biggest source of work? I mean, is it mold? Is it
The mold and the meth. The meth cleanup, I mean, it's just.
That's the tagline right there.
That's interesting.
It's a very unfortunate situation. The meth epidemic is awful. And Scott's been very smart, he has gone on to get other training, the lead training, the trauma cleanup training, or certification. He doesn't use those as much now, but when the meth epidemic begins to taper off and they get a hold of, you know, the root cause of all of it, and it will, I mean, it's gonna taper off. He has another source, another certification to lean on.
so after you go in a house and clean up a meth lab, then
We don't clean up the meth labs.
I mean, I'm sorry, clean up the house after the meth lab's gone. There we go. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is it inhabitable again? I mean, you can make them. I know that everything is not.
A completely independent hygienist comes in and tests the house, and they send it off to the lab. And if it comes back clean, so.
Has it ever come back not clean and you had to go back?
Yes. So I have to go back in and do it again until it's
When you do a meth house, who pays?
depends. If it's the mortgage company that owns it, mortgage company pays. If it's the property owner pays. It's very sad, but I don't want to say the majority. Several cases have been, these are just, property owners that had rented it out, and sometimes, a lot of times, it's to a grandson or granddaughter, and it's an elderly person that was renting it, and so they were taken advantage of, and it was a property owner that had to clean it up.
Has there ever been a time with the meth houses where there's maybe a vacant owner, an absentee owner, and it was between tenants and somebody had just gained access without the knowledge of the owner and set it up? Does he know the backstory on all of this?
I don't think so, because by the time he gets to it or he's called on to, I mean, the police department's been on the scene, the health department's been on the scene, they found the owners, and all he knows is that somebody's calling him to submit a bid or to clean it up, and so I don't think we've never heard of that case.
This is kind of aside from, entrepreneurship or anything like that, but has being in the work that you all are in on that meth side, has it changed anything you thought about addiction or?
I will never buy a house and not test it myself, I will tell you that.
Wow, that's interesting.
Because you never know.
Never know.
How would you get that tested? I mean, that needs to be something you.
Actually, there is a company, I think that you can buy them at Lowe's now. Or Lowe's was coming out with, not a picture.
What does that tell?
Yeah. How
But
widespread is it?
I think that if it's not on the market yet, it's coming to the market.
What does it look like?
I don't know, I've not seen it, Marion. It's something, and then you send it off to the lab to get it tested. It's a different kind of test than what Scott does. His is a more high-tech, true test, I guess, so I don't, but you could always call a company to come test it.
I'm trying to be so good and raise my hand. Would that be something that a home inspector would have available to them? Like if you had someone, inspect your home before you bought it? Is that the kind of?
And I don't mean to scare everybody.
No,
This
but
is just,
these are good things to know.
a
lot of people here, rent, have rental houses.
The majority of houses, I'm sure, are just fine, but for the things that we see,
It's okay. It's okay.
yeah, I'm sorry.
But is that something, do you think that, I'm just thinking, I know some home inspectors and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should call them and say, hey, get this certification so you can test for that, and something else you can add to your, to your repertoire. Okay.
I would think it would be more cost effective for them to sub that out.
Yeah. Who knows though? Who knows? We don't know what the parameters of it are, so.
So you all have evolved a lot. The business has changed quite a bit just in the short time that you've had it. It sounds like it's been pretty much responsive to what your customers needed and that sort of thing, but do you guys have like a grand plan in 20 years? We're gonna be doing, something totally different? Where do you see it going?
Well, that's a great question. I'm not sure I know the answer to. I don't know.
Yeah.
In 20 years, I hope I've retired from my day job. But no, I'm not sure. We don't know. We're just now to the point that we realize what our focus needs to be, and we're thinking about the future more and more and more. And so, yes.
What are some of the things you wished you'd done differently, the mistakes?
I don't know that. I think for us to take it slow, I've always compared us to the tortoise. Going slow was good for us, and we knew that. We always communicated with each other to make sure that the timing was right before we took the next step. That was important to us. Mistakes. you know, probably the one mistake maybe Scott made is that he got scared and went and found another job. And instead of just trying to stay focused, I mean, but you never know, it's rough terrain.
It's
Yes.
scary, you know, when you first start out. How is it working with insurance companies? I mean, I assume that's probably a big part of your
Yeah,
compensation.
insurance adjuster, of course, when someone has an insurance claim and their property, you know, they can choose whatever contractor they want, but sometimes there's, the property owners rely on referrals from the adjuster, and we're thankful for those, and we have contacts with adjusters.
That's one of the questions where you get clients from, so, I mean, but are they, as a vendor to the insurance companies, is it easier than working, because I know I've had, you know, a loss in my home where I've had to deal with the insurance company, and sometimes they, you know, they're not as friendly as you'd like for them to be, but you guys don't really see that part, you just get the, do the work and get the check, or do you have to fight?
No, everything's good. No, he's had several jobs with insurance adjusters and insurance companies, and everything's always worked out very well, so never any problems.
I'd just like to make a comment that you guys have been really insightful in self-examining yourself, because you've changed 3 companies. And a lot of folks get stuck in one spot, and they say, we have to do this, and it drives you down a dead-end road, and you were very insightful. And it's hard to sit there and go, we have to change, and we have to become something else that the market says we need to be. I think you're being commended on that.
Well, and I give the credit to Scott, because, yes, he got nervous, but leaving the cleaning service was harder for me than it was for him. He knew in his mind 6 months ago that it was his time, but he had to convince me, and I wouldn't let it go. But anyway, it's just, yes, he waited for me.
When was it hard? What made it hard?
The steady income.
Right.
Yes, but it became more and more of a challenge for us to keep it up. And again, we saw a decline in the service that we were providing. And, you know, we just had to be honest with ourselves and say, do you want to go in and do this all the time and try to manage it? Or, so that made the decision.
There are only so many hours in the day.
Exactly.
Or do you have any orders that you have to go in and clean up after?
Yes, and I had thought about putting some of those pictures in there. I don't know that they were true hoarders, they were just really nasty. I mean, when people get into that lifestyle, they just lose all control of any upkeep, and he's run into some really, really nasty places.
I have a friend in another city that has a company like this, and they have a hoarder whose family calls them, you know, once every 6 months and has them go in and clean out the house, and then, you know, it takes them another 6 months for them to get sold in. It's a regular contract. They just, you know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, talking about not dealing with the problem.
Just mark it on the calendar.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whenever you're starting a new business, and whenever you're making that farm, try to figure out what you do, what works best for you, what do you need to change in directions, what does the future look like, how do you feel about the whole situation, when can you see some daylight, you know, when did you see that point, because I know that steady looking at everything, reviewing, making a step the way you do, which is phenomenal. You know, you probably had a moment where you said, oh, this one's so bad, okay.
Yes. About 2014, with the Enviro source, I mean, we were overwhelmed with the amount of work we were trying to manage, but in a good way. And we said, okay, this is gonna work. This is gonna work for us. And again, that no looking back moment, you know, he didn't look back. So, I'm sorry.
I just have a comment. You have made a reference to your day job. Probably everybody in here knows what that is, Madisonville City Clerk. I want to make a comment, though, and it probably would be echoed by my fellow councilman back here, Mr. Stevenson. You made some reference to hoping in 20 years that you had retired from your day job. I don't think former city clerk Jenna Munger that she would have had enough tenure by then to be able to retire, would she?
So you got to
Yeah,
last
I
Yeah, you're not good. So, I know it's early, but do your sons look forward to going into business, or can you groom them to learn something that will help you in the future?
Well, our oldest son, well, actually both of them had worked with us doing the cleaning service. And Scott's talked about it. I mean, my oldest son is getting a degree in business, and we want him to finish college first. He's working at Carhartt and going to school, and, let him do those things first and then see where it's at. But, yeah,
Maybe
maybe.
your future.
Maybe. I'm always saying, you want to do this, there are things that you can do, let me teach you. And so just the office side of things that I think are good for them to learn, to help them in whatever they do.
I got that.
If you were to tell the rest of the group the biggest incentive to open a business, or if they're hesitating to open a business, or looking at maybe possibly opening a business, what advice would you give another entrepreneur who's looking at making the step that you guys made?
I think do your research for your market. Make sure that there is a need in the community for what you're going to do. Networking is important. We were very fortunate in the beginning that we had a lot of great people that referred us, and for us, word of mouth was the best way to go. But stick with it as long as you can. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and I've seen that side. But if you feel like you can keep going, and if it's what you love to do.
How do you make your services, the availability of your services aware to that market? I mean, you're going to multi-state. Do you have
He's on a vendor list. He's on a vendor list with a lot of these contractors, and so he's built up a relationship with many of them, and so they're repeat callers on him. He does great work for them, and they call him back, and so we haven't had a need to, take off a lot of advertising or anything like that. It's just the relationships that he has built through his certification classes and that sort of thing, and staying on those vendor lists.
You have 3 crews, is that right?
Yes.
So is that like the perfect sweet spot for you, or do you think you could go to 4?
Right
I know you want to stay small, you said.
Right now
but-
it's working, so, I don't know. I'll leave that to him. Whenever he's ready to take that leap, I'll leave that to him, but right now that's what works for us.
Any other questions?
I don't know if we asked this specifically, but what would you say is your biggest struggle now? Is it, you talked about finding work for people that need, you have good people, but you can't give them consistent guarantee that they'll have, work coming on, or is it, dealing with permits, and, what is it?
Right now, our biggest challenge is, what are we gonna do with all of these trailers and trucks and things that are in my driveway? Finding another place. Not every customer is always satisfied, so, following up with that customer to make sure we can adjust to meet their needs, to make them, to get them a product or a service that they're happy with. Sometimes they have to go back. Not every crew does the job to the standard that, you would do the job. And that's one of the challenges, that you can't be everywhere all the time. And so Scott travels so much going back to double check on the crews and that sort of thing. So that's probably the biggest challenge.
I think we've heard that a lot from different people, that you have a dream and you know how you want to do it, and then you hire people and you can't exactly just, take it out of your head and put it into theirs, that this is our standard and you need to do it our way because our name is on the company. I think that's a big fear. When you duplicate yourself, it's not going to be a fun
ask a two-pronged question.
Thank you.
In relationship to, you've got some temporary crews now. Assuming business continues to grow, do you and Scott ever see those perhaps becoming permanent and maybe full-time crews, even if it's limited to
I hope
three?
so. I mean, I hope
Be a
that
nice
it
problem to
does.
have,
Yeah.
wouldn't it? Yeah.
Nice problem to have.
Yeah.
For sure.
The second one is, either in the past, I know you mentioned who your original banker was, the bank of mom and pop. But as things have progressed, we saw some of the suits and doing some of the more serious health concerning cleanups. There have to be some expenses with having gotten to this point and continued growth. Has that been a challenge in terms of the financing side of things?
Fortunately, he's just been able to put the money right back in to purchase the equipment. I will say, taxes are that maybe that's probably one of the biggest challenges is taxes. Knowing we have a great CPA that
I know a really good one.
Yeah, that takes care of us. She's taken care of us for several years now, and we, as we've grown, you take the law, take a loss first few years, and then you start to grow, and you see a profit, and knowing how much to pay out so that you're trying to either break even, you don't have to pay out all those taxes, but I'm going to call it a burden. The burden of paying quarterly, and then at the end of the year, you realize, oh my gosh, you've not paid enough. That's truly a challenge for us, and just knowing how much to spend, in expenses, so that we're not having to pay the good old IRS.
Let me first say I hate the IRS. And I'm with you on the quarterly. So every time you turn around, it's time to do quarterly taxes. You're like, well, I just did that. If you absolutely detest doing it, it's something that constantly feels like it's right there in your face as far as doing that. What do you think the next big step for you guys is after you get the locations? Are you going to have someone remaining that location, maybe doing the books and accounting and everything else and organizing the people full time possibly? Or are you looking at that move to just be a lot for them to park their vehicles at and come pick them up at?
Right now, it's mostly a lot for them to meet at in the morning or whatever gets started, a place to store the vehicles and equipment in the garage. Scott will manage. I mean, I think more of it, maybe his goal was that he can stay local and not have to be traveling so much, but we're just not there yet.
How long do you think it'll be?
I wish I knew. I do wish I knew.
My goal is the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the group? She's got some time left. You want to ask
That's
some
great.
questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was great. We are adjourned early today, thanks to the questions you asked in such a rapid fire fashion today. We will meet again next week. Any other questions you guys might have as a group or suggestions as far as how the program's going, what you might want to see coming up next, some thoughts along those lines possibly? Anything? Okay, the ones of you that are new here today for the first time, what are your thoughts about the program? How do you feel about it? I'll put you on the spot.
Well, I'm impressed. I think it looks like a good group of folks from what I've seen. And, I'm sorry I haven't been here previously. I've been off in 6 months, but I'm not a morning person. It's very difficult.
We aren't either.
It's very difficult for me to move this early in the morning. But I look forward to being part of this group, and I think it's
Now, if anybody wants to be a part of the group as far as to present in front of the group, simply go to hopkins.sites.1millioncups.com. You can look at our Facebook as well. Please follow us on Facebook. We're on Twitter as well, and we make comments there, but I don't know if the rest of you, I'm just not Twitter friendly like I should be. So I have to remind myself to do that as well. We'll be here again next week at 7:30 in the morning, and thank you for being here.
Next week's presenters.
I don't know.
We have,
Rachel Sign across with Sally Taylor traveling with me.
Oh, yeah.
we have two presenters next week.
Two next week to do that. I had to work late last night, my mind's not even fresh yet at this point in time. Y'all have a nice, safe week.
Thank you.
Thank you.